Right guys, welcome back out to the Fox Box. This is my third video this week. I wasn't going to do this one. This is a video response to kind of everybody really. A lot of the people that I follow and the people that I know are doing the 10 questions about gaming. Nobody's actually asked me to do a video response, but I thought I'd do it anyway. I thought it was quite an interesting one. I liked some of the answers I heard on people, so I thought I'd do it. And also, most of the videos that I do out here, it's usually one of three things. It's either me talking shit about foxes, me talking shit about Assassin's Creed, or me crying because I bought broken consoles, or buy broken consoles and then break them. So I thought it'd be good to actually do something that was actually about gaming, because there's been a lot of nonsense on this channel and not a lot of serious gaming talk. So I thought I'd do this. So this originally started on a channel, Tony Fighter 2. Actually not a channel that I know. I don't think I know Tony in the like the WhatsApp groups and the things, but I've subscribed to that channel now. I did try getting back and finding the original video that started this, but I think it was Russell that said it's hidden away in the live stream, so I might need to go and do a bit of digging on that one. But so I watched Russell's, the Retro Bear, watched Eddie's, I've watched Two Tears, seen some of the others. So yeah, it's inspired me to just do my own. It's the first video I've ever actually written something down for, hopefully with better handwriting than Eddie, because he didn't know what half the questions he'd written down were. So I'm going to jump into this and try, and most people are doing this in about half an hour, so I'm going to try and do it quicker. Right. Number one was, what is your favourite genre of game? What I liked about the answers on this one, before I give my own answer, is everybody talks about the same thing with this. Escapism is the word that everybody uses. But their idea of escapism is something different. Some say it's this type of game, some say it's that type of game. So everybody's saying that their favourite genre is the one that gives them that escapism, but in different ways. So my favourite genre is specifically about this. And it's not a retro genre by any stretch. It's something very much modern, but it is big, open world, action, role-playing games. I'm talking Assassin's Creed, obviously. I am going to try not to talk about Assassin's Creed too much, because I've already done 2 Assassin's Creed videos. Inevitably, it will come up a lot in this channel, but I will try and keep it to a minimum, because I want to be about other stuff as well. But obviously, Assassin's Creed is a big example of that. Far Cry, Fallout, Horizon. I absolutely love the Horizon games. Things like Skyrim, Ghost of Tsushima I've played recently is fantastic. That type of game, those big open worlds where you can go and, I'm not too asked whether you can create your own character or be someone else and go and do the thing, but they're the games that give me the escapism. And when we actually get onto the favourite game one, which comes much later, I'll talk about that more. But for me, they're the ones that I always play. Some of these answers that I'll give, I'm going to give kind of 2 answers to the questions, because my gaming life is kind of split between here, where I'm out. This is obviously my garage that I've converted into the games room, where I'm collecting all the old stuff. And this is mostly about just experimenting with retro stuff. But my proper gaming I do inside, with the big telly on the sofa where it's comfortable, with a brew. And these games are the games that I put hours into, which we'll come on to as well. But open world, I've got to a point now where I can't really enjoy non-open world games. I've just got so used to it now. Spider-Man, the recent Spider-Man ones is another example. It's just come to mind. Even things like on the racing things, I got into Forza Horizon, something like that. I just love the idea of being able to, let's go over there and do a thing. Let's go over there and do a thing. I know this is controversial. I know a lot of people don't like them for kind of this reason. I like a lot of Ubisoft games because they give you that. They give you a big world where you can go off and do a lot of things, and yeah, they get a bit, I'm playing Far Cry 3 at the minute, and there is only so many times you can sneak into a camp and stab someone before you think, I'm done with this now. But generally, they give it you. What was the little one that they did? The Zelda knockoff, Immortals Phoenix Rising. That was a Ubisoft one. big open world. The Witcher, obviously, I don't miss that one. I love that kind of game. The Witcher went too far with it. Obviously, there was far too much shit happening on the map. You couldn't. I never got through all of that kind of stuff. But favorite genre for me is that, because that gives me that escapism. You can go and be someone else, and you can play it for hours and not realize you've spent that time. Which brings me on to question number 2. How much time do you spend gaming? Out here, very, very little. I spend most of my time out here displaying stuff, building it up, deciding what I want on the wall. I spent 2 hours last night redoing my Assassin's Creed cabinet, and I put some pictures of it up on Instagram, and I'm forever shifting stuff around and pissing about. But the games, they don't get a lot of playing. Inside, on the sofa with the big telly, I can do hours. I work from home a lot of the time, so sometimes, I mean, it's what 6 o'clock now when I'm filming this. As soon as I knock off work, my missus tends to work later hours than I do, so stick the telly on, I can easily burn 2-3 hours. But it depends on the game I'm into, because I can go months without touching anything really, and then something will come out, and there are some games that even now I can be at work doing something serious, but something at the back of my mind's thinking, you know, when you knock off, you can spend a bit of time crafting such and such, and go and get that armor later. Skyrim, another one. You know, you can do something, and I'm plotting it, you know, and then as soon as I finish work, I've got to get to it and think, right, there's a corner of the map that I've got to clear something from. I'm going to go and deal with that tonight, and then I can move on. So if I've got one of those games on, the type of game where I'm thinking about it when I'm not playing, that's the escapism even when I'm not playing it. But those I can put hours into, and I'm quite slow at these games. I platinum a lot of these ones, not so much the Far Cry one, because there's usually some really awkward challenge in there. The racing one or something that I'm a bit shit at and can't do, but the Assassin's Creed ones I definitely do. Ghost of Tsushima I did, both Horizon ones, and I'm slow, I'm methodical about it. I like to clear the map bit by bit. When I see people online saying 30 hours, you know, 20 hours to complete it, 30 hours to platinum it, I can double that, triple that, and not even, you know, scratch the surface, because I'm always just buggering around on them. So something, if I've got one of those games on the go, at the moment, it's Far Cry. I've only discovered Far Cry recently, and I'm sort of weirdly playing them in reverse order. So I've got to Far Cry 3 at the minute. So I've got that one. When this is finished, I'm going back in. I've got a thing, I've got some people to go and shoot in the woods. So now I'm putting a lot in, but I haven't really done much gaming for a while. So short answer to that is it depends on what game I've got on. The next one, well, there is an open world, I can't think what it's called. There's a Star Wars one coming out. Outlaws comes out like next week. I've not paid a lot of attention to it because Star Wars games usually disappoint me, but that one looks like it could take up a lot of my time. And then there's Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is coming, and that is going to take a lot of my time. So, moving on. Can games be educational? Yes, I think they can. Whether they should be, whether people want them to be these days, I don't know. There's two things that's kind of springs to mind with this as examples, one recent, one not. Eddie kind of touched on this one in his answer about the historical games, letting you live in the past. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about Assassin's Creed too much, but with some of the recent Assassin's Creed games, fair enough, the storyline is not... I think in Assassin's Creed 2, when Ezio fights the Pope in a basement under the Vatican because he had a massive space orb, that probably didn't happen in real life. But the recent ones, they have, I think they call it Discovery Mode. I'm sure Liam was saying that he was doing it because him or his missus was into, I think it was ancient Egypt, and on Origins you can actually just play it in Discovery Mode where everything's sort of educational and you can walk around the old towns and learn about stuff. I haven't done that myself because I played the games through, but I think they've done it on Odyssey, and I think they've probably done it on Valhalla as well. I think that's a new feature that they're putting into the game, so you can actually play it specifically on educational mode. Haven't seen people mentioning all the DS games. When the DS came out, it was all educational games. There was brain training and things like, I can't remember what they were called. They were like courtroom games. You had to try working out who did it, and there were ones where you was a detective, like Sudoku. Everyone got obsessed with Sudoku type games, and maybe not educational as such, but they're on that spectrum, aren't they? The other one that springs to mind for me historically, and I don't know if this is something I had pre-internet when I was a kid, like when I was. So the one that I had was in 1995, so I'd have been 7. So I don't know if everybody had this or if it was just something obscure that we had. But pre-internet, we used to get the Encarta. They weren't games, but they were software. They were like a virtual, like Wikipedia, but offline. They're like a virtual encyclopedia, and you get one every year. And Encarta 95 is the one that I remember. And in that, there was a game that I used to play for hours with my dad that was a maze. And there was a jester, and you had to walk around the maze, and then each room you had like general knowledge questions of stuff that you could go and find out from Encarta and do the thing. So I paid hours on that, and I think there was a kids mode and an adult mode, so you could, tailor what the questions were. But that was probably the first like computer game, if you can call it that I remember playing regularly. And the one that I recall ever playing with my dad. But that was on Encarta. I don't know if other people had that, or if it was just something obscure that we had. There was no way of knowing when I was 7, and I haven't thought about it in decades. It's just come up. I've just turned 36, so it's nearly 29 years since I was playing that. So I don't know if other people had that, if anybody know what that means, but that's my thing. A lot of people are talking about having software at school. I don't really remember that. Liam might correct me because we went to school together, but the only thing I had that I recall at school was like, we had this little, was it called a roamer? This like little dome robot thing, you could program it and then it'd drive around. But I don't recall any games as such that were educational, and I don't really tell you what that taught me. So yes, they can be educational, is my answer to that one. What do I not like in gaming? There's quite a lot here. I'm going to split my answers between modern gaming and retro gaming, because the point of this channel has got lost along the way, but my normal gaming kind of career, as you call it, has been PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's it. Pretty linear. I've had a couple of little adventures into Xboxes here and there, but predominantly I've been a PlayStation guy. The point of this channel, and it's probably been dip in and out of the YouTube thing, but it's probably 2-3 years I've been doing this. And the whole point of this whole thing I've had going on is exploring the consoles that I never had as a kid, the ones that came out beforehand. So I'm playing a lot of stuff that's old that I don't have the nostalgia for, but I've just started playing. So I'm coming at it from a slightly different way. So the thing I don't like about the retro games, and I appreciate this is the point of a lot of them, and Ed, it's funny, in Eddie's video talking about the shmups, he was saying that this is what he likes about them. It's the repetition. It's the doing the same thing over and over and over again. You get to that level and you die and you're right back to the beginning, then you learn it all the way through, and then you go to the next one and you're right back to the beginning, and then you go all the way through. Maybe as a kid and I had more time on my hands, I could have enjoyed that. But now, it really puts me off. Once I've done it a few times, and you're chasing a high score and you're forever going back to 0 every time you balls it up, it just bores me. I just find myself doing the same things over and over and over again. And as Eddie was saying, that's good, because you get to learn it, and it's all about that progression, and you learn how the game thinks and you get to beat it. But even in modern games, for all my talk of loving open world RPG games, I haven't even given Elden Ring a go, because I gather with that there's a lot of boss fights, and when you lose you go back a long way. Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and things like that, if you die you only go back a couple of minutes usually at most, but I gather with Elden Ring you go back 10-15 minutes every time, and I'm busy, I haven't got time for that. I don't want to keep doing the same shit over and over and over again. So that is a problem when you're trying to play retro games, because of course they weren't ever big enough to keep you entertained for long enough by their size, so it was the difficulty that kept you there. So yeah, so that is my answer to, for the retro. For the new ones, it's the pay to win stuff, and the microtransactions and the loot crates and all of this type of stuff. I see Ubisoft get criticised heavily for this, because there is an option with, like, I'll go back to Assassin's Creed again, but it is an option with some of those games. It's not an option I take. I'm bad at gaming. I put things on a relatively tame difficulty setting usually and play my way through it. I platinumed a lot of Assassin's Creed games and not needed to pay any extra money on it. Some people want to speed it up, fine. The ones that piss me off are things like FIFA. It's shocking for it. You pay, what, £75 for the game now? And then you have to pay monthly for a PlayStation subscription. And then he wants you to pay monthly for some other things, or the Ultimate Team subscription, the EA Sports Club. And then you go out and buy vouchers so you can get, you know, packets of players for your team that you have to keep going. And the Ultimate Team, I know you can still play it offline, but that is really gone to the back of what the point of it is. It's just a cash, and every year they bring out the same game with this different I mean, it's a while since I bought one now, but I don't mind the microtransaction thing when the game is free to begin with. This is a stupid example, but I played the Simpsons Tapped Out mobile game for probably 15 years. I've played that semi-regularly. I go off it, I go on it. I'm having a bit of a hiatus from it right now, but I've done almost everything there is to do. I'm just doing the events as they come along now when there's one that interests me. But in the past, I've spent money on that. I've thrown a fiver at it here, a tenner at it there, because, you know, sometimes it will get you something that helps you over the next bit. But the game's free, and that's given me 15 years of, probably over that time, probably hundreds of hours worth of redoing my town and moving things around. And so throwing 5-10 quid at it here and there, it's still cheaper than going out and buying probably Assassin's Creed. You know, they're still 60 quid when they come out. But when you pay that much, and then it wants more, and then it wants more, and then it wants more, and the more you do that, the more it's linked to the online play, and you're losing because people have spent more money than you. I think it's mad that the PlayStation have brought out, I can't remember what it's called, but they brought out a more expensive controller that's nearly as much as the console, so you can be slightly more accurate on Call of Duty and beat people that have got the normal controller, and then you're just forcing them to spend more money. That kind of links me to my next bit. I know a lot of people love it, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying I don't like it, but esports, this shit should be fun. It shouldn't be a career, you know. I know it's always been there. I know there's always been, like, you know, people trying to win arcade competitions and things like that. I know it's always been a part of it. But for me, I don't like it. I don't like seeing people turning a hobby into a career in that kind of a way. I don't like it being taken that seriously, because it feeds down. And similarly, this was particularly bad, I think, during lockdown on TikTok. And I'm not on TikTok anymore. I went on it for a little bit, but I still see it from time to time on Instagram. Like, people just filming the same bits of games over and over again, but doing, everyone trying to outdo each other a little bit more. I know it's just like a high score thing in an arcade, but the one that springs to mind was, like, just during lockdown, the algorithms were showing me constant videos of people on Forza Horizon. I can't remember which one it was, but it was the UK based one, and there was an area where there was like a windmill, and people would jump off it and try and see how far they could go. And every fucking TikTok video I saw was somebody in something jumping off it, and you think, this is so boring, just go and play the game normally. Right, I'm rambling, and 20 minutes in and I've done 4 questions, and I said I was going to do this in half an hour, so let's speed this up. Right, how much do I spend? My spending is linked to my YouTube habits, sort of. Well, other way around, my YouTube habits are linked to the spending. So I can go 6 months without really spending a huge amount of money on it, but then I can have a couple of months where I'm really into it and spend stuff. I've seen people say I spend all the money on it. I have other hobbies. I've got a motorbike over there. I go traveling a lot, so I can't afford to spend everything on it. But sometimes this whole room just gets forgotten about, and I don't tend to spend a lot of time out here. And that's reflected in my YouTube. Like, I will go months without doing anything. Then like now, I'll put 3 out in a week, because I'll buy a few bits and I'll think, oh, you know, I'll do a pickups video on that, but to make it worth me doing a video, I'll buy another couple of bits that I've been thinking about, and then it's worth filming something, and then it's linked to that. It also sort of crescendos around the events. My most spending happens at like particularly the Doncaster one, the Leeds one, less so at the Warrington one recently, but at those events I can comfortably spend, you know, 250, 300 quid. I usually come away with a console and an impractically big peripheral of some kind. I'm usually going over to Eddie's stall and squirreling stuff, so I don't have to carry it around all day. So yeah, the spending varies. Sometimes I go through a bit where I spend a lot and then I forget about it for 6 months and don't do anything else. Right. Favourite console? Again, I'm going to give the retro answer and the non-retro answer to this one. For the non-retro answer, as I say, I'm limited to my answers here because I had a PS1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and apart from a couple of little, I had an Xbox One for a Series X when I couldn't get a PS5 during the lockdown, so I had that for a bit. I got through 3 PS3s that kept ringing to death when they were a thing, but generally I've just been PlayStations. I'm going to say the PlayStation 1. It was I'm pointing because I have one on the shelf up there. It was the first home console I ever had. I had it probably 2 years after it came out. It was a Christmas present. I feel like I only really had it for a year or two, and then the PS2 came out. But that hit of nostalgia when I think about, it's the most boring box in the world as well, isn't it? You know, compared to some of the others, you know, it wasn't, you know, like now they come packaged with a game a lot of the time, so you get one covered in stuff. It was just a grey box that said PlayStation on it. But that nostalgia hit when I opened that from Santa, or my mum, however old I was. Wouldn't have been Santa, would it? Would have been my mum. No Liam jokes. When I had that, I can feel that now when I think about it. And I probably had crap games on it because I was a kid and I was at the point where my mum was buying games for me, so I didn't have Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy and Resident Evil and Grand Theft Auto. I had shit like Croc and Spyro the Dragon and that kind of stuff, but still, that PS2 is definitely the one that I've spent the most of time on because I had that like going through teenage years. So I was at the time obsessed with extreme sports games like Tony Hawk's, Dave Mirra, Matt Hoffman, Sean White. I've still, most of my PS2 collection on the shelf down there is all of those types of games. It's extreme sports type stuff. I put hours into the PS2, so that one's always a special one. But the PS1 was the one for me. In terms of the stuff out here that I didn't have as a kid, that I've bought, that I've been experimenting with, there's a few that I've liked, there's a few that I've not liked, some I haven't kept. I would probably say the one that I'm liking the most is the Japanese Sega Saturn. I like the games for it. I like looking for the games. It's a bit interesting because it's import stuff which I don't know a huge amount about, so that one gets a mention as well. That's probably been my favourite console I've had as a retro thing. So that is my favourite console. Though I do agree, I think Eddie talked about the PS4 being probably the best of all time. Spoiler alert. I'm guessing you've seen his before you've seen mine. I agree, it is. It just doesn't have that same nostalgia hit for me that the other ones do. Right, favourite game. I have a very, very obvious favourite game. Now, there are some, I mentioned Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I've spent a lot of time on Pro Skater 2. Assassin's Creed 2 is probably the game that I've completed through the most amount of times. I absolutely love that game. I love the areas where it's set. I've been to Venice a few times and I love to go around thinking, oh, I've climbed that, I've jumped off that. You know, there should be a haystack there, otherwise someone will kill themselves. Grand Theft Auto Vice City also that has been my favourite Grand Theft Auto game of all time. Never really bonded with the ones since. Didn't really play with the ones before, but that one I have played through quite a few times, including in the last 12 months. I had a bad hit of COVID, so I played that one through. But my standout one, and I'm looking wistfully up at it, is an Assassin's Creed game. Oddly, it's a lot of people's least favourite Assassin's Creed game. It is Odyssey. Now, the reason why this is my favourite game of all time, I'm going to go back to that escapism piece that everyone's referencing, everybody in the games do. I had that and hadn't played it, and I bought it because it was the new Assassin's Creed game, put it on the shelf because I'd been busy doing other stuff and just never got around to playing it. When the lockdown started, the first lockdown, the proper lockdown that everybody did, apart from politicians, the real one, Boris came on the telly and said, stay inside. I thought, fuck. And I installed that, and everybody did something at that point to get through it. That was my way through it. That game was massive. It took probably 100 hours for me. A lot of people criticised him because it was too big. A lot of people said the map was too big, there was too much to do, you could never really progress the story too much. First game I ever platinumed that one, because I had the time to. But, you know, I've embraced home working now. I go into the office once, twice a week, but that was new for me at the time. So I, you know, was struggling like everybody, just working on my dining table. My missus was working from home as well. She was like spending her evening. She got obsessed with doing like online fitness classes and stuff like that to try and keep herself sane. And, you know, you turn the telly on and all it was people telling you how many people had died that day. It was a heavy fucking time. We forget that was rough. But for me, being able to just go off to ancient Greece and be a Spartan or whatever and do all this stuff, and there was millions of side quests, and you could spend hours and not progress it at all, and people hated it for that, but I loved it for that. If I bought it, if it came out now when I'm busy doing other stuff, I'd think, this is too much. Like with The Witcher. If I played The Witcher at the same time, all them little question marks, I probably would have been saying thank for all of them. But I've played The Witcher before and since then, and but you know what I mean. That's my favourite game. It got me through a really, really shit period. There was a shit period for everybody, but that was my escapism because I could just go to ancient Greece the minute I'd finished work and just forget about everything else. It was a masterpiece. I know it's not, weirdly, it's my favourite game of all time, but I don't know that it's my favourite Assassin's Creed game of all time, because it's not that Assassin's Creed, and that's a lot of why a lot of people hate it. There's not a lot of stealth, there's not a lot of parkour, there's not a lot of, well, it's not an Assassin's Creed game almost in canon because it predates Origins, which was the start of the Assassin's Bureau. So even in the canon story, it's not really an Assassin's Creed game. It just is something similar. But whatever it was what I needed at that time, and I put a lot of time into it. So because it got me through that time, it takes the thing every single time. Now I just like to flick it on and go exploring. I've done everything there is to do. I can turn it on now and there's no one to kill, just towns to walk around. That is my favourite game of all time. But as I say, shout outs to Vice City. Assassin's Creed 2 is probably my favourite of all time. It's not my favourite Assassin's Creed game of all time, but just because of, you know what I mean. That's an awkward answer, but you know what I mean. And Tony Hawk's as well. But again, I'm just talking about, it's the open world games. These are what I like. Right, favourite game movie. I'm not going to do this in under half an hour. I can't think of that many. Everyone's writing what they says. The TV shows are good. Last of Us was good. Fallout was good. No one's mentioned Halo. I really like that. Don't like the games. Hate them. But I do like the TV show. Movies. I've missed Borderlands. I was thinking Borderlands might have been it. But my missus went to see it without me, weirdly, even though she hates games, and said it was shit, and I'd seen terrible reviews, and by the time I got around to going, it's no longer on at our local cinema. So I was hoping that was going to be the answer, but I can't go and see it now. I'm going to annoy Retro Bear with this one, because the one that springs to mind that I do like, and I know he got quite emotional when thinking about this game in his video, Sonic. I actually quite liked it. I like Jim Carrey as Robotnik. It worked. Yes, it's corny. It's a kid's film, but I liked it. I thought that was all right. I didn't mind the Mario one, but I've never been a big Mario fan. I like Sonic 2 wasn't as good as Sonic 1, but I just like Jim Carrey's wackiness as Robotnik. It worked. I can't think of any others that were good. It is, despite the fact that I've got me Michael Fassbender statue just there, it is certainly not the Assassin's Creed movie. I thought it was. I thought it was that was going to be the one when it came out. But why? I talked about this in my other video. If you're watching all my shit, then I won't bore you with it again. But why did they make a video that was predominantly set modern day when everybody agrees that is the worst bit about the games? I just didn't understand it. I don't want to see people running around an office block. I didn't want to do it in the game. I don't want to see it in a film. The historical bits of that film were great. If there was like a Zack Snyder style cut where he gets rid of all this shit and puts all the good stuff in it, then that would be a good movie. But they didn't. So I'm going to say Sonic because I just can't think of anything else. Favorite character. I've written something down next to it. Tattoo. Oh, people were talking about who would you have tattooed on you. My answer is not one I could have tattooed on me. The obvious answer to this would be Ezio, right? It's obvious. I'm not going to do the obvious answer because I'm not Assassin's Creed in this thing. I was going to say Aloy from Horizon because it depends on how you're scoring this. Do you like the character for what you do as the character, or do you like the character for who they are as a person? Right, so for Aloy, what you do as her is incredible. Fighting robot dinosaurs with a bow and arrow, yeah, she is a bit moody and she's a bit arrogant and she's a bit of a bitch. So we don't really like her personality-wise. She's a bit wooden, but what you do as her, what she lets you do in the game is amazing. But I'm going to go with something different. And this is a little bit on the lines of, say, Russell was talking about Football Manager, right? And the bond that you create with your players in that. But there is a character in a game that anybody that's played this game has this bond with. It is a character that joins you early on and you go on adventures with them. You go on quests, you fight monsters, you go in tombs, you go around the woods, you go exploring mountains, and then you marry them. Sometimes you don't. You buy a house with them, you have a dog with them, I think. If you sleep with them, you get a 15% health boost for an hour or something. I can't remember how it was. She was always there for us. Anybody that's played this game, she was always there. And as she reminded me of 3 or 4 times a minute, she's sworn to carry my burden, but she carries a piece of my heart as well. Lydia from Skyrim. It has to be. We did so much together. We had a fucking dog. That was real. Don't tell me that was real. I can't have it tattooed on me because my missus will say, "The fuck's Lydia?" Lydia from Skyrim. Has to be. My proudest gaming moment was when me and her were walking together through Whiterun, head to toe in Daedric armour that I'd built for us both, with the swords, the whole thing, looking like Sauron, the pair of us. Can't do that anymore. I might. I've got the Skyrim VR thing, right, and I thought, I'll play it long enough till I can meet her. It'd be good to meet her in virtual reality. Not in a sex way, no, but just, you know. But the thing makes me sick. I can't get past that first castle without being sick, so I won't. So my favourite character, Lydia from Skyrim. I've done what Eddie's done. I've just written least favourite. Oh, his least favourite genre. This is a hard one to admit to the retro gaming. It's predominantly retro gaming people watching this, but it is platformers. I know that makes up such a big part of all of this. I just hate them. I'm shit at them. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about that repetition. As soon as you fuck something up, you go back a little bit, and having so many lives before you have to go back to the beginning. And I always find that the difficulty curve just goes like that. Like I can enjoy with Mario games, I can enjoy it for about 3 levels, and I think, oh yeah, this is all right, I can do this, and then there'll be a bit I can't get past ever, and then that'll be the end of it. I've never really bonded with Nintendo because of that. Because I feel like if I'm playing Nintendo, I need to have the Mario games and all that kind of stuff. I just can't do it. I hate it. So I've overshot my time, but that is my least favourite one. So hopefully that wasn't too Assassin's Creedy. I know it was a bit. Hopefully it explains a little bit more about what on earth is going on out here. I am going to tag a few people in it. I don't know if the people that have already been tagged. I found myself in a foursome of sorts with 3 other YouTubers that we call ourselves the Banjo Strings. Yeah, you 3 are getting it. So Liam, Retro Ram 88, you're getting this. James from Time Warp Gaming, you're getting this, and David Tyler the Game Hunter, you're getting this as well. So I will tag you boys in this at the end. Get back to me. No mum jokes. I don't think I made a single one. I did make one, didn't I? Sort of. You get on this. I might just tag Al as well in it. Big Game Al, because he never watches this shit, and it's he needs to get involved with this. So I'm going to tag him as well, although I'm sure others have as well. So thank you for watching, and I will see you whenever I do whatever's next.